Alright, y'all, welcome back to the Talk Tip 50 channel. It's your boy 50. I appreciate you for checking me out. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you've been to this channel before, I appreciate all your support. Now let's get into it. So a couple things have been changing ever since probably the last video that I made. Ever since then, I released an IT course that lets people, learn the foundations of, operating systems, networking, and security. That way, when they get into IT, they can go in whatever direction they want. And that is whether you want to be a network engineer, security architect, you want to do cloud stuff, virtualization, you want to get into any architecture in IT, anything in cybersecurity, it doesn't matter. These foundational skills will help you to be successful in your career, and I am teaching that myself. I've got a couple slides that are self-paced, and then I also have like Zoom calls that are like 3 nights a week, and I go through stuff that's similar to what I do during a day-to-day, and then I'll, show you some stuff that I would do in a day-to-day depending on tools and all that other stuff. So what this video, and I'll leave a link to all that in the description. So what this video is going to be about is I'm going to give some tips about how to get into cybersecurity. All right. So the thing about getting into cybersecurity is that there's a lot of people online and in these Twitter spaces and these Twitters and Facebook groups saying, oh, there are these ways that you can get into cybersecurity, but some of them aren't even in themselves. And so as somebody who's in cybersecurity, I want to give people the real about how to get into cybersecurity. Now, mind you, this is for the technical side of cybersecurity, not necessarily the GRC side with all the compliance and privacy and all that stuff, not the non-technical stuff, but the technical stuff. If you want to move towards like incident response or security architecture, cybersecurity engineering, vulnerability management, like any of that stuff or anything that's in or around that realm, even when it comes to cloud or networking, yeah, I could talk to it because I've done it and am doing it now. All right. So one common misconception is that you have to start off in cybersecurity, and that's not necessarily true. And I actually prefer that people start off the conventional route. Start off doing your help desk stuff. You can you can start off in a NOC. But what I tell people is get your Security Plus and get a CCNA. Why these two? So with the Security Plus, usually with cybersecurity jobs, especially like your entry level jobs, they have a minimum requirement of the Security Plus, and that fulfills your 8570 DoD requirement. And then you have your CCNA, which will give you, first of all, it looks way better on your resume than the Net Plus, and you can demand a little bit more pay, and you have a better grip on networking, or at least you should, and people will pay for that. And so that's usually the first thing I tell people, no matter where you start off in IT. This is IT in general, not cybersecurity, in IT. No matter where you start off in IT, even if you start off at help desk, that's fine. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. A lot of us started off at help desk. You need to know how to interact with users. You need to know how to troubleshoot their applications. You need to be able to relate to them and get their experience, because when you do get up the totem pole in the IT stuff, a lot of decisions that you make are going to affect them. And if you don't know how decisions affect them, you're not necessarily, to be honest, one of the best people to be making the decisions for them or on the behalf of them, because you don't know how it's going to affect them. And if you don't care, you can't just do the whole security with an iron fist thing. Well, outside the DoD anyway. You know what I mean? Like, you can't rule security with an iron fist. There has to be concession between usability and security, and there has to be that happy medium, and the right person knows how to find it. And that's usually people who have worked closely with users, and most likely they started at the help desk. All right. So let's keep it going. So there's nothing wrong with starting off at the help desk. I actually encourage it. But just don't be there too long, especially if you got your certifications. 6 months, then get up out of there. You know, if you're in a knock, what you're doing is you're managing like a whole bunch of like network devices for like a whole bunch of companies. You're managing them, seeing like if they're going offline, or if they go offline, you know, can you reach them? You might have to log into the router. You might have to call the person that's at the location and walk them through doing stuff with the modem and walking them through getting you back into the router, so then that way you can check the router and see what's going on. You know, so that is a very important step because it teaches you how to troubleshoot. And so if you can troubleshoot, if you can do network troubleshooting, really you can do almost anything in IT. Really, you can do anything with IT that has, you know, nothing to do with coding. You know, but if you know how to troubleshoot networking, you're good to go. And so that's another way that you can get into cybersecurity, is either by starting off networking. Whether you start off networking or help desk, or even you start off in cybersecurity, you know, both ways are fine. And so what I always tell people is to leverage what you have in your environment, because you never know. You might actually have some access to one of the, what I call the money tools, and you just kind of glaze right by it. You know, I don't know how many times I've talked to people, they will send me their resumes and then like, well, I don't understand why I don't understand why I'm not getting a lot more offers. But then they use Splunk every day, but they use Splunk off of their resume. Stuff like that. Or, you know, I use Palo Alto or I use Cisco ASA, but they'll leave that kind of stuff off their resume. And usually what you want to do is whenever you have something like that, you want to have something to amplify that money skill. And so if you touch the Cisco ASA, you want to get a CCNA or a CCNP security. You touch a Palo Alto, you want to get a Palo Alto certification, because that's what's going to make people want to pay you more. And that's also going to be what gets you into the position that you want to be in quicker. And so usually, I'll say back when I first got started in IT, it probably took about maybe 10 years, maybe to get to 6 figures. Usually took about 5 to get 60K. It took me my very first IT job. If I go all the way back to the database job, that was what? 07? I think that was 07. Yeah, so that was 2007. So I was what? 20? I was 20 and I hit my 6, I would say, in 2012, which is about 5 years later. If I knew then what I know now, I probably could have got there in 2.5 or 3 years, to be honest. But 5 isn't bad either. 5 isn't bad either. I had some great mentors to kind of move me along fairly quickly, even though like I move a little bit quicker than almost most other people that I knew that were in the field. You know, that mentorship and that guidance is what helped me. And so once you get into IT, it's very easy to pivot into cybersecurity. There's all these tools that you can learn. They're free, like your Wireshark and your Nmap. And then the thing is, a tool like Wireshark, that's going to play on what you learn from your networking experience. Your source and IP ports, your source and destination IP addresses, your source and destination ports, and knowing the port numbers, because you're going to have to know that when you go in an interview. They're going to ask you what's port 21, what's port 22, what's port 23, what's port 53, what's port 80, port 443, maybe even port 514 or 3389. You know, they're going to ask you these port numbers. And so knowing what they mean and then how they apply will greatly help you, especially when you get over to security. And I'm not even going to lie to you, if you have a network or a network engineering background, cybersecurity is almost a breeze, because troubleshooting a BGP issue or going down a rabbit hole to find some random issue, or like, let's say like troubleshooting why on a VPN tunnel on an ASA stuff is being encrypted one way, but you know, on the other way, it's not being either encrypted or decrypted or stuff like that. That kind of stuff is a trip. But looking at logs and just seeing where stuff is coming from and then where it's going, compared to the networking side, that side is a breeze because you really don't have to troubleshoot anything. All you have to do is just look at the information and for the most part make sense of it. And so that's what I always tell people. I always tell people that the thing about cybersecurity is it's just knowing what to do with the information. Once you know that, then you can make a decision. And so if you're in college or you're just trying to get started in cybersecurity, just get your Security Plus and your CCNA. You'll want to be familiar with your Windows and Linux. If you're not sure on how to do that, you can come jump in my course and I will guide you through everything that you need to know to get into cybersecurity. The technical side of cybersecurity. It'll be in the link in the description. And so once you do that, you'll have a strong network basis. You'll get your certifications, your Security Plus, your CCNA. Then you get in the field and then you pivot right on over to what you think you might like. You'll get into a SOC, and then depending on the team, you might just be in the SIM looking at alerts, or you might be in a SOC where they do a little bit of everything. So you get a chance to figure out what you like. You get a chance to run a vulnerability scan to see if you like vulnerability management. You might do some stuff with the SIM, and then you'll see if you want to be a SIM engineer. You'll do some stuff with IPS and the firewall, and maybe you might move towards security architecture one day. Or you might get a chance to see some incident response stuff, and you might get to learn Encase and X-Waves and FTK, and then you might go the whole digital forensics and e-discovery route. There's so many things that you can do in cybersecurity, and all of it comes from a basic fundamental knowledge of just IT in general, which you can get from your very first position. So that's really my hint or my advice to get into cybersecurity. It is get your Security Plus, get your CCNA, learn you some Linux, and possibly get familiar with a cloud vendor like an AWS or an Azure. Because see, the thing is, cybersecurity is very broad. IT in itself is very broad, and cybersecurity is very broad, especially on the technical side. And so you're not really going to have a specialist too much, but you are going to have to know a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And when you take your Security Plus or your CISSP, you'll notice that it covers a wide variety of things, because that's the reason why I say this. Cybersecurity is a wide variety of things. You've got the security of your endpoints or your Windows devices, your security of the network, your security of the cloud stuff. And so you're all over the place. And what I would say to people who've been in IT, and if you've been in over 5 years, you're definitely going to want to talk with somebody like me who can more guide you in your career to kind of go where you want to go. Because the thing is, one, you got to get paid. Two, you got to get to where you're trying to go. And so if somebody's been at a help desk, let's say for 10 or 15 years, the first thing I tell them is get your CISSP. Get your CISSP. Why? Because you've already met the year requirement to have that CISSP. You probably know how to change a password. The CISSP is not a technical certification. It's more managerial. You're good. There are plenty of non-technical people, and I would even venture to say half of the non-technical people, half of the CISSPs are non-technical people. You don't believe me? Ask anybody who sat in these meetings or is on a big security team and take a survey of all the people that have a CISSP. I promise you, half of them are not going to be technical. Guarantee them. Because you still got the GRC people, the risk assessment people, the security assessment people, the privacy people, the law people. You know what I mean? They don't know how to jump in and configure an ASA usually. They don't know how to configure a checkpoint or Palo Alto or jump into AWS and set up an EC2 instance in a certain VPC and a certain availability zone. They don't know how to do that stuff. you know, but that doesn't mean that that should stop you from being a CISSP. I say you get your CISSP, and then let's see what you have on your resume that we can highlight that can get you paid. You might have something already on there that you're overlooking that you might need to focus on, and then that will be what starts to change the direction of your career. Cybersecurity is a field that it looks like it's going to be here to stay for a while. And if you're going to be in this field or you need to pivot into this field, you definitely want to talk with somebody, one, who knows what they're talking about, and then two, they're respected by their peers in this field. You definitely want somebody who's walked the walk, you know, and not just talk the talk. You can save that for the clubhouse stages. We really need people who have already been through what you're going through to tell you, okay, this is what you should go through because this would have saved me a couple of years. You know, I want to see people get to the bag as quickly as possible, and I want to see people get to the career they want as quickly as possible. But I also want them to be as knowledgeable as possible and also as useful to their team as possible, because there are a lot of dead weight and there's a lot of tenured people, you know, who really don't have anything to offer a team, and I want to help change that. So if anybody needs help getting into cybersecurity or network engineering or anything surrounding this, you can feel free to hit me up. You can leave a comment below. My links to my social media, they're in the description below. If you're interested in getting into cybersecurity or into IT in general, you can join my course. It's that, you know, you can join my course. It's not that expensive. It's actually not expensive at all. I made it that way because I even want college students to be able to do this, because I get a lot of college students in their second year and then they're asking, you know, what should they do? Or they're in their senior year asking what should they do? So you can hit that link and then you can join my course and my class, and then I'll show you the way. I'll pour my brain out and my heart out to you guys 3 nights a week for about an hour and a half. And so anything else, just hit me in any of those links. Please be sure to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. Appreciate y'all for checking me out. I'll holler at you.